Thank you. It's my pleasure, and please be seated. It's my pleasure tonight to present Ambassador Gilad Ardan, who has served as Israel's ambassador to the United Nations since August 2020. From January until November of 2021, Ambassador Ardan also served as Israel's ambassador to the United States. Ardan is the first person to hold both roles concurrently since Ambassador Abba Eban in the 1950s. Since beginning his tenure at the United Nations, Ambassador Ardan initiated and passed a critical resolution in the UN General Assembly combating Holocaust denial, making it only the second time in history that an Israeli-led resolution was passed at the UN. As a steadfast defender of Israel in a place where anti-Israel lies are institutionalized, Ambassador Ardan consistently fights for Israel on the world stage and makes the truth heard loud and clear. Prior to serving as Israel's ambassador to the UN, Ambassador Ardan served in the Israeli Knesset for 17 years and held several ministerial positions, including Minister of Public Security and Minister of Strategic Affairs, as well as serving in Israel's Security Cabinet. It is my pleasure to present to you a great defender of the truth, Ambassador Ardan, CUFI Defender of Israel Award.
Thank you, Pastor Hagee. I am deeply honored to receive the Defender of Israel Award tonight. But you know what? It is the state of Israel that should be awarding you. Where are you, Pastor Hagee? He was supposed to be here with me. It is the state of Israel that should be awarding you, Pastor Hagee, for your years of impactful action and defending the Jewish state. I will definitely take this award back to Israel with me to always remind me that we are not alone and that we have so many Christian friends on our side. I want to thank again Pastor Hagee and Diana for their lifelong commitment to the state of Israel and for strengthening the bond between our faiths. You have not only inspired millions, but are also an integral piece of Israel's strength. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, I would like to first turn to Rosette. Is she still here with us? Rosette? The Holocaust survivor? Oh, hi, Rosette. She spoke before me, so I thank you for your words of courage, determination, and hope. They humble and they push us all to work harder against hate. I would also like to recognize Yarden Gonen and Michael Levy, who are here with us tonight. Please rise if you are here. Yarden is the sister of Romi, and Michael is the brother of Or. two beautiful young Israelis who were brutally kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival on October 7th. Yarden and Michael, please know that I will continue to work tirelessly for the release of your sibling and all of the hostages. All of them. And everyone here and around the world prays for the return home of your loved ones as soon as possible, along with all of the other Israeli hostages. Friends, before we continue, I would like us all to stand for a moment of silence for the 12 innocent children who were murdered by Hezbollah while playing soccer in Majd al-Shams yesterday. This massacre, once again, shows the brutality of our enemies on all fronts, who seek only to kill and destroy. They do not distinguish between child or adult, soldier or civilian, Jew or Muslim, Druze or Christian. And this current reality on Israel's northern border cannot continue. We will change it, and Hezbollah will pay a heavy price. A heavy price. So please rise for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may sit down. Friends, on October 7th, the Jewish people experienced the largest single loss of life on one day since the Holocaust. On Simchat Torah, the very day that the Jewish people celebrate receiving the Torah, barbaric Hamas terrorists invaded our homeland. This day was not chosen by chance. Hamas is waging a war on our faith. They massacred children in their beds. They gunned down revelers with machine guns like the Nazi death squads. They violently dragged our grandfathers and grandmothers, among them Holocaust survivors, babies and their mothers, to Gaza, like the baby Kfir Bibas and his brother Ariel. Dozens of hostages, beaten, raped, and brutalized, paraded in front of thousands of cheering Gazans who have been indoctrinated to hate. The ISIS-like barbarity and depravity of these Hamas terrorists is truly unfathomable, unfathomable. But friends, in Israel, we always remember the words of King David. Even as we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil, for God is with us. Make no mistake, Israel will defeat its enemies. Let there be no doubt. We will achieve total victory over Hamas. Our army has been fighting every day to end this evil, to ensure the future of the one and only Jewish state in its ancestral and indigenous homeland. Yeah. Hamas's genocidal ideology, by the way, just like the Ayatollah regime of Iran, is not just about destroying Israel. It is ultimately about world domination and exporting the jihad war globally. It's about destroying our shared Judeo-Christian heritage. There is a quote often repeated by radical jihadists. I'm not sure you heard it before. And I quote, "Today we come for the Saturday people. Tomorrow we come for the Sunday people." Yeah, we Jews are the Saturday people. You, my Christian friends, are the Sunday people. So it should be clear, Israel is fighting in defense not only of itself, but of the entire free world. Israel is not only a light unto the nation, but it is also the vanguard of civilization today. And you know what? We can achieve this victory. We can achieve this victory through our unity, through our determination, which helps exactly and directly to combat the genocidal strategy of our enemies. And now I'll explain. What is exactly their strategy? The strategy of Hamas and the other terrorist organization. So Hamas and Hezbollah, they know that they cannot defeat us on the conventional battlefield. They don't have a chance. We see what's happening now in Gaza, how our IDF, our military, is decimating Hamas. So, yeah, thank God. So the strategy, let me explain. The strategy of our enemies is to target us where they think we are weak, in our homes, at our festivals, to murder innocent civilians. But they knew that Israel would strike back with devastating force. So, how did they plan to survive our justified retaliation? And this is exactly the second half of their strategy. The second half, what do? They embed themselves within and under the civilian population in Gaza in order to maximize the death toll in Gaza. Thus, the deaths of people in Gaza are weaponized to receive international sympathy. They don't care for the blood of the Gazans. And while every civilian death for Israel is a tragedy, for Hamas, it is a strategy. That's their strategy. They manipulate international institutions like the United Nations to pressure the Jewish state into a ceasefire that will allow the Hamas terrorists to stay in power. That was their plan. That's their strategy. That's how Hamas plans to survive. They exploit the blood of Gazans. They want to incite the international community against Israel in order to stop our operations and basically to tie our hands from exercising our right to defend ourselves. Yet, when we stand together as the people of the book, Jews and Christians, supporting Israel and its people, yes, we are sending a clear message to our enemies. No power can stop us nor break us. For we have the shield of David. We have the staff of Moses. We have the righteous fury of Joshua. Friends, this is a multi-front war. We all have something to contribute, all of us. While the IDF, our military, courageously combats Hamas, each of us stands on our own front lines. We heard the students here. Each and every one of us is fighting a war for the truth and our shared future. Hamas terrorists, they use rockets and guns, but their partners, even here, but across the world, including here in the United States, amplify their genocidal calls for the same aims, to destroy our culture, our faith. Supporters of terror and evil are already harassing here elected officials to give in to their demands. This vile anti-Israel hatred has exposed its true face: blatant anti-Semitism and Jew hatred. Since October 7th, anti-Semitism has surged to terrifying levels. We witnessed students chanting Nazi slogans while university presidents hide behind empty words. The scenes that we have witnessed on the campuses of Columbia, UCLA, and other so-called elite universities have shaken us to our cores. So, brothers and sisters, we have to fight Jew hatred with everything we have. Today, words are no longer enough. We must demand action from our elected officials, from decision makers. Donors must suspend donations to universities that defend terror supporters. Students that assault our children on campuses must be expelled. Professors that support the Intifada must be fired. And we can demand and achieve it. You have the power to pressure elected officials here and to show up at events to demand support for Israel and demand support in eliminating terror and hate. Like the word of Isaiah, for Zion's sake I will not keep silent. For Jerusalem's sake I will not remain quiet. We must stand together, Jews and Christians, in our holy mission for the truth. We need you now more than ever, more than ever. We are united as a family, and we remember God's words. I will bless those that bless you, and I will curse those that curse you. So friends, it is crucial you remind everyone that today it is the blood of Israeli children that is being spilled. But tomorrow it could be the blood of your children. So friends, while our soldiers are fighting to secure our future, I lead the fight at the United Nations, the House of Lies, to combat the delegitimization of our just war against terror in Gaza. We see that the UN has completely lost its moral compass. Can you believe that up until today, it's a fact, the UN has not even condemned Hamas for the October 7th massacre? The Security Council has not held even one discussion on releasing the hostages. Shame on the UN. Shame on the UN. However, the UN hasn't always been like this. Some of you remember it, and that in 1947, the UN voted in favor of the establishment of a Jewish state. So, what happened? How did the UN become so hostile? The answer is very simple. The political makeup of the UN has changed dramatically throughout the years. Today, it is so distorted that it can no longer fulfill its founding purpose to prevent atrocities and wars and defend human rights. In 1947, there were only 57 member states, countries in the United Nations, and they shared similar ideals, similar values. Today, there are 193 countries at the United Nations, and the institution is composed completely different. I'll give you a few examples. Today, there is a large automatic majority against Israel because 56 countries, nearly 1/3 of the United Nations member states are Muslim countries. And they vote on most issues as part of a bloc, an anti-Israel bloc. This explains the hundreds of anti-Israel resolutions at the UN. And listen to this. More than half of the member states of the UN are not even democracies. Can you imagine? More than half. In the UN General Assembly, democracies like the United States of America, you have the same voting power as dictatorships like Iran or Syria. And friends, this distorted makeup leads to disastrous outcomes. I'll give you a few examples. Iran, the #1 global sponsor of terror, was elected recently to chair a human rights forum. Yes, it's not a joke, Google it. Saudi Arabia was recently elected, elected to lead the Commission on the Status of Women. You can't make this stuff up, seriously. With so many Muslim countries and non-democratic countries, the result is an automatic anti-Israel majority. The UN has become a weapon in the hands of dictators and terrorists. And listen to the numbers. Israel represents, we are less than 10 million people, so we represent approximately 1/10 of 1% of the world population, okay? Yet, can you guess how many condemnations we receive every year of all the UN's condemnations? 70% of the UN's condemnations, only against Israel. So UN resolutions go so far as to deny our connection to the holiest site for Jews, the Temple Mount. So, what do? How do I fight there? So my strategy is to expose, as you've seen, the hypocrisy and lies of our detractors. I know that I am defending the most moral country in the world. Yeah. I know it. This is why I always keep my head raised high and I always go on the offensive. Always. When the Secretary General ignored the suffering of the hostages, I immediately called for his resignation. When the Security Council refused to condemn the massacre, the October 7th massacre, I donned a yellow star like during the Holocaust to remind them of the shame of their silence and to send the message that never again is now. And when the UN rolled out the red carpet for Iran's president, Raisi, the butcher of Tehran, I held up a sign demanding freedom for Iranian women during his speech. By the way, ridiculously, I don't know if you saw it in the video, the UN is so morally bankrupt that I was detained for standing up for human rights in the face of a brutal dictator. And when the UN called for a ceasefire, they passed few resolutions that will keep Hamas in power. I exposed Yahya Sinwar's, the head of Hamas, phone number and told them that if they want a real ceasefire, they should call him and demand that he turns himself in and release our hostages. That's how you get a real ceasefire. 2 weeks ago, the UN's, last example, 2 weeks ago, the UN's joke of an international court of justice declared that the Jewish people's presence in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria is illegal. Yeah. They called Jews occupiers in our ancestral homeland. That's the UN. What more should I say to get the world to understand that the UN must be defunded and replaced? Defunded. Defund the UN. Friends, when I entered the UN every day, there is one truth that deeply empowers me. Every day. I look around the room, the UN hall, the General Assembly, and I remember that the ambassadors of the Babylonian and Roman Empire are nowhere to be found. Yeah? By the way, nor are the delegations of the Moabites or the Amorites. Yeah? The flag of Amalek is not waving outside the building. All of these empires have disappeared. Thank God. But do you know which flag is waving there proudly? You know, yeah? The Star of David. Yeah, the Star of David, the blue and white flag of the Jewish people living in our eternal homelands. It demonstrates that we not only survived, but thank God, thrived. So even if I'm the only voice of virtue at the United Nations, I know that I am not standing alone. I know that Israel has the support of each and every one of you, of Jews and Christian Zionists around the globe. The fight for Israel is the collective fight of believers, and when we stand united, we can move mountains. As Isaiah prophesied, all who rage against you will surely be ashamed and disgraced. Those who oppose you will be as nothing and perish. Those who wage war against you will be as nothing at all. Today, Jews and Christians form one united front, one people, one heart to battle the forces of evil. God is calling each and every one of us. For those of us in Israel, we are battling on the front lines. To you, my friends, we need you on the front lines as well. On the spiritual front lines, millions of CUFI members united in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem and all of Israel. On the communications front lines, especially on social media, we heard the students here, we must be relentless so that the truth is seen and heard. Share the truth on all of your social media accounts. On the streets, we see America's flag. America's flag here in Washington just last week being attacked and burned by pro-Hamas mobs. These people hate Israel and the US equally. We know it. We must remember at all times, our enemies are your enemies, and our victory will be your victory. Dear friends, we heard here tonight stories of amazing young people as they stood up for the truth in the face of evil. I look out and I see here the next generation who are already fighting in the lion's den. You, dear friends, are defenders of Zion. You and all supporters of CUFI strengthen the resolve of every Israeli. I am overwhelmed with emotion for having the opportunity to address you tonight. And you all now deserve a round of applause. Thank you. So, dear friends, brothers, sisters, Israel will complete its mission. We will continue until Hamas is obliterated. We will continue until the hostages are safely back home. We will succeed in the fight for Jerusalem. Israel will prevail. Am Israel Chai, the people of Israel live. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Erdogan.